Hello and welcome to PubShorts episode 74, Karma Police.
Episode 74. Good Lord. How have we got to 74 episodes already?
I believe it is by doing 73 previous ones.
Yes. A process of osmosis has once again led us to where we are.
Yes, yes.
So I've got to ask you, KK. I know we discuss the title of the episodes all the time, but why don't you let the audience know why we've named this episode Karma Police?
We will. First of all, this entire series, PubShorts, is the episode titles are related to a song that is written by a UK-based artist. That's the whole thing. Because Tony, you're from the UK, and we both love guitar and music and everything, and we both sort of live in the 70s to 90s, song. I mean, we also listen to modern music, but at least that's a period. So this was a pivotal album, OK Computer. That just changed everything, and the song title, obviously, Karma Police. So thanks for showing the record. So it talks about karma police itself. So we are in this episode we are talking about research integrity violations, including author identification issues and everything. And there has to be some sort of a karma police for research integrity thing, and all the stories are related to it, and that's why we are calling it Karma Police. And we love the song. We love the chord progression of the song. In fact, we did sing the song earlier.
Yeah, let's not share our secrets with the world too deeply.
But let's introduce ourselves, because that's not a secret. My name is Dr. KK and I'm the innovation officer at Trinca and Inago, and Tony is sipping coffee. I think it's probably the third coffee because he's still recovering from jet lag.
I am still so jet lagged from my recent visit to the US. It takes me, as you get older, it just takes long. It seems to take longer to recover from trips. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Tony O'Rourke. I'm VP for partnerships here at Inago. Thanks for watching this episode of PubShorts, episode 74. The whole point is we have PubShorts to discuss news stories that relate to the world of research and research communication. And can I just say, if any of you out there have got any ideas and suggestions for topics, please feel free to contact KK or me either on LinkedIn, or you contact me directly at tonyo@inago.com. And why don't we launch straight into the story, KK?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, if suppose you see either of us performing at a live stage, you can also walk up to us and tell us what PubShorts themes.
Yeah, you might find KK more. Although that said, I have got a couple of folk band performances coming up in the next few weeks.
Yes. You can also do that. But anyway, as you said, let's move on to the first story. Very, very hot topic, Tony. I don't know if you have read this story, but let's start with this. This is Retraction Watch covering the Trusted Identity in Academic Publishing report that STM had published. So I'm just going to catch everybody up. STM Association is exploring new ID systems for authors, reviewers, and editors to reduce fraud in academic publishing. Unverifiable researchers can indicate paper mill activity, in the sense if suppose the research is written by unverifiable authors. Journals use clues like the lack of professional affiliation to spot fake research or fake research outputs. STM's framework suggests using a combination of verification methods, including passports, institutional emails, etc., to validate identities. And the proposed system aims to deter fraud by increasing accountability and making impersonation more difficult. Manual checks are currently used by some publishers but are time-consuming and not scalable, and there is a debate on how this framework might affect unaffiliated researchers, independent researchers, for example, potentially complicating the publishing process from their side. And the framework seeks to balance identity verification with inclusivity, allowing for multiple verification pathways. So this covers a lot of what the report is about, and this is a hot topic. I'm sure that you've had some conversations related to this in the SSP conference as well.
Well, not just SSP. Author ambiguation is a very important topic. If you're reading a piece of research, you want to know that piece of research is coming from a legitimate researcher, from a legitimate organization. I suppose one of the challenges is, of course, if you're an early career researcher and you're still developing your career, perhaps you haven't got a post yet, but you're still doing some kind of research you want to publish, is the threat that you may get misidentified. But I think overall, the sort of actions that STM are encouraging, the trade associations are encouraging, in terms of providing better ways of identifying who the author is, including programs that we're developing ourselves, can only be seen as a positive thing. Because, with, what was it, 3.5 million research articles published in journals every year, there is so much scope for fraudulent
Mm.
activity.
Right.
Not just bad actors, but bad organizations pretending to be legitimate organizations. I think it's one of the I think black clouds that sits over our industry.
Yeah, so one of the products or features that we are trying to develop is to offer a solution for publishers to identify the or verify the submitting author's identity by using multiple signals, including ORCID and other cross-related data. And if you're interested in such a solution to disambiguate your authors, you can get in touch with Tony or me on LinkedIn or in whatever means that you would like to get in touch with us, and we'd like to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely, love
Yeah.
to hear from you.
Right. And a related story by Signals or on Signals' I guess, web page, the story is titled "Fake Attributions of Persistent and Evolving Research Integrity Problem." This has some.
It's the same thing.
It is not quite the same thing. So let me just so this you can see a newspaper clipping for those who are following this on video. The history of research integrity in terms of attributions it dates back to 1980s, and there's one case that is described here. Fraudulent authorship boosts credibility by using influential names without their consent. So this is a difference, Tony, in the sense that the somebody else's name, like article that is written without your permission but being attributed to you is what is being discussed in this article. And
Yeah.
journals sometimes use fake authors to attract submissions, like putting authors or researchers who are not quite affiliated to them in their editorial boards and peer reviews, etc., peer review catalog, etc. And
Which unfortunately these a lot of these fraudulent, all of these printed journals have been doing almost routinely.
right. And this is for financial gain. Institutions may pay researchers to
Yeah.
falsely declare affiliations as well. That's another separate thing. Institutions doing this, and fake authorships harm reputations and mislead the scientific progress. So current systems lack it, and Signals is obviously one of those sort of players who are developing systems, including players like us. And there is a need to verify authorship as well as to so validate the relationship between the author and the research as well, which is what this story is talking about, right, Tony?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the need for the research organization to understand, what does fraudulent practice actually mean and what they can do to cut down on these fraudulent practices. I kind of understand the pressure in some institutions I know in certain countries the publication and publication success has almost like a direct linear effect on your research funding. So organizations are pushing hard to get as much content out there as possible in some cases,
Right.
which can't necessarily be a good thing.
Right. Now we talked about the use of responsible AI in the last the responsible use of AI movement, and this is a story
Yes,
related to
yes.
it. So this is a news article a couple of weeks ago in Nature. AI linked to explosion of low quality biomedical research
Oh, yeah, I read
papers.
this. Yeah,
Right. So many recent studies are using AI to identify correlations between health conditions and single variables. These studies often rely on publicly available data like NHANES. I don't know how to pronounce that. Do you know what that is? Yeah, the U.S. National Health and
no,
Nutrition. This
I presume to pronounce it Nhanes or
NHANES.
Nanes.
Yeah,
Nhanes. Yeah.
Yeah, U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey. So researchers warn that these papers might be using a formulaic approach, which is classical. If suppose you do not give guidance to AI, it will eventually produce pretty much the same thing, regardless of how you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and statistical scrutiny reveals that many findings aren't robust, and some studies might have also cherry-picked data to show desired results. There is a risk that paper mills could exploit these data sets for profit. So now this is a concern, and this is also, so I mean, we can talk about the two things that we have been talking about a lot: the responsible use of AI movement as well as AI peer review assistance, so that we can at least check whatever we can with the help of AI providing the evidence to indicate robustness or lack of it to the human reviewer, so that they can correctly review the
Yeah.
paper and determine its scientific
It's
merit.
it's a definitely a positive use, and again, it demonstrates the need for human guardrails.
Right. All right, moving on to the next one. This is from Citility, the makers of Argos, I guess that's the best way to say it. So this one's titled Citing Retracted Research, What Q1 2025 Data Tells Us About Citation Quality. So obviously that's a wonderful report if you want to understand how citation trends are being shaped in 2025. But the key points are that the wide range of citation of retracted papers among publishers from 0.2% to 4%. So that is a range of retractions that we are talking about. Retractions get cited because of unawareness on the authors' part of who are citing the retract papers.
Interesting that it's not 0 to 4%. It's what it's saying is that every publisher has at least a certain amount of retracted papers that it has to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, at least in this, you can see these are
Or at least
publishers.
in this study.
Yeah, maybe. That's what I mean. Probably, I guess. I do not know the exact data that they've used, but let's see
Yeah,
if we can find it here. Yeah. So our data covering a wide range of publishing imprints, which each of which has over 2,400 articles published during the quarter. So it's
yeah,
from their data itself. But the other reasons for citing retracted papers include outdated databases. We have talked about it. Databases not being updated, or not users not being notified of these updates, or intentional citations as well. So Citility provides a tool to automate checking of retracted references, like Inago with our reference quality checker
yeah.
tool.
I
And
mean, we have a reference quality tool which is a part of our Inago Reports product. You know, if an organization wanted a license, just that tool separately, it can do.
yeah.
But you know, reference checks is part of a suite of checks that a publisher has to go through. So we see it very much hand in hand with things like technical checks, language checks, integrity checks, those sort of ethical checks that we would do. But let's say if an organization, if all they're interested in is uh, is is to understand the reference quality, the quality of reference that have been used in the paper, including retracted papers, then they can just use that,
Right. I
the
think
reference quality checker.
so. These publishers in this group could really use a tool like this. Is what you're
Mm,
trying to say? Yeah. And
mm.
probably you've already had conversations with some of these publishers already. But
I'd imagine so.
yeah, right. All right, moving on to the next one from this. This is a research paper from BMJ Open. It's an original research titled Female Authorship Trends in a High Impact Canadian Medical Journal, a 10-year cross sectional series, 2013 to 2023. So this study finds that women were underrepresented overall as first and last authors, though both roles increased significantly over time. The female authorship percentage rose by 17.7%, reaching 58% in 2023, which is great in my opinion, in the sense that 58% of female authorship in the Canadian Medical Journal is also a good thing. And similarly, female last authorship rose by 10.5% to approximately 48%. Now, the concerning aspect of this is all good, right? In terms of more wider representation of female researchers, the problem, or at least the concern that I noted, is that having a female editor in chief and a higher share of female co-authors independently boosted the odds of female first and last authorship, in the sense that obviously we have talked about the journal editors knowing the submitting authors help the submitting authors to successfully publish papers. Now that this is a research integrity concern. So there are these things. If suppose the journal is a woman, journal editor in chief is a woman, then you are more likely to have the first papers with women as first authors. Now you could argue that that's a negation of the negation of the bias against women in terms of being first authors. But it is interesting. I think all of these trends need to be identified and should be flagged as well, at least at a yearly, in this case decade level, so that publishers take enough measures so that there are no editorial integrity issues. Agree, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that would make, the only thing that would come into question for me is I don't, I think it's great that female authors have been represented in this way, and I think it's wonderful that we're seeing this sort of increase in this trend. Is at the end of the day, the journal wants to publish the best research.
Yeah.
It shouldn't matter who the first author, who the last author is. I appreciate that there may be a level of unfairness or a lack of within the kind of the employment market. But if as long as the focus is on, let's make sure that the best science is being produced, and you shouldn't care, and whether the author is male or female. I know what a lot of publishers are doing, are introducing programs like anonymized peer review, for example, where the identity of the author, the gender of the author is removed. So there should be nothing in that paper
Mm-hmm.
that would reveal to either the author or the reviewer the gender of
Mm-hmm.
the author, just so you just focus on the paper itself. That, at the end of the day, for me,
Excellent.
is the most important thing.
Very, very well put, Tony. Thanks for that. Moving on to the next one. Fake AI images will cause headaches for journalists. I mean, this is not a literal headache, but at the same time, there's a lot
Well, I
more.
think it is. I think it is.
Well, it's related to obviously image manipulation, image generation by AI. It highlights the lack of tools to detect fraudulent AI generated images. So, journals are urged to require raw data when publishing papers with images. Although some AI tools can detect manipulated images, they struggle with detecting AI generated ones, and peer reviewers might not always spot fake images without knowing that they're there. And some AI
Mm.
image tools include watermarks, but those can also be overcome by the tools themselves. And all these modern phones these days have wonderful AI technology that will remove the watermark within a couple of clicks. So this is a concern, Tony. I don't know about the literal headache part, but this is the reason why image manipulation detection is a major theme in research
Yeah.
integrity, and publishers are seeking solutions for it.
I mean, I think the author, the journalist, is not quite right to say there are a lack of tools to detect fraudulent images, because there's some very, very good. Admittedly, they're Rolls Royce tools, they're premium
If I may
tools, which
come in,
not everyone
Tony,
can afford.
the point that was made is that there are tools like I think Proofing and Image Twin to detect manipulated images, but there are
Yes.
fewer tools, high quality tools to detect AI generated
Oh, but
images.
that's yeah. Okay, in that case, the author may be right there. At
Yeah.
the moment,
Mm.
there are fewer tools, but that is changing so quickly
Yeah.
that you're going to see AI detected, if there isn't already. I imagine there isn't already
Mm.
versions of these tools and new tools coming through that will detect that.
Yeah, and
I think we're just in between 2 points.
yeah. No, I mean, another thing is this is related to the responsible use of AI movement that we have been talking about in the last couple of episodes, in the sense that uh, using AI to generate an image which will be submitted as part of a manuscript, obviously it can be questioned depending on what the image is for. It can be questioned whether it should be permitted or not, but most importantly it has to be transparently disclosed as well, and this is what we are trying to promote by
Absolutely.
encouraging publishers to be clearer and consistent across the board in terms of guidelines for AI assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. I absolutely agree. I think the greater transparency. There's no that we're not going to stop research from using these tools as long as those authors are being open and honest about how they're being used.
Right, excellent. And the last main story, we have a bunch of quick hits this time. This is a Springer Nature press released. It says new analysis from Springer Nature reveals widespread international disparities in research integrity training. Another thing that we are focusing with the responsible use of AI movement. So this white paper is talking about research integrity training and emphasizes the need for stronger institutional leadership and tailored hybrid training. So the
Yeah.
surveys were conducted in countries like Australia, UK, US, and others show varying access to integrity training. Despite high support for mandatory training, few researchers are required to demonstrate understanding. And the training often targets postgraduate students and early career researchers. And there's a call for more guidance on authorship and data curation across countries. So this is very much in line with what we are talking about. And Tony, I do not know if you have watched it, but I recently hosted another podcast called Research and Beyond from by Inago, where I was speaking with AI ethicist and somebody who teaches the ethics of publishing, and so we stumbled on whether research integrity in the context of AI needs to be added as a big part of the syllabus in such courses. And he said that it's already a part of such courses that he's teaching, which was interesting for me. And this basically says that it needs to be more consistent across the globe.
Yeah. Listen, I've been working in this space for a long time, and I remember about 10 years ago, I spoke at a conference, an education conference, where we very strongly argued the need for consistency in researcher training. In terms of what that researcher training consists of, I think may vary depending on how the market evolves. But there is absolutely a global inconsistency, a global lack of appreciation or understanding that kind of what is the minimum a researcher needs to understand
Right.
about the process of creating content. And obviously today that process is very different with the use of AI. It needs to be a mandatory part of every almost every student, everyone that's studying at a higher levels knowledge to understand what is responsible use of AI, how should AI be used, and that should be part of every single course, every single induction course, every single postgrad master's introduction course. Every course should have an element in terms of, look, this is reality. This is what you need to understand, and this is how you should be engaging with AI. And that, I think, as a global requirement.
And I mean, extending that beyond the institutions, it's also the responsibility, I guess, of publishers and organizations
Oh, of course,
to
of
train.
course. I'm just trying to focus at
Yeah.
the core. Where is that content being created?
Right. Right.
Well, if the institutions need to understand how their researchers are using AI and training them in responsible use of AI. At the same time, publishers need to understand how that content is being created, and that's why we introduced the responsible AI movement to sort of share that knowledge and to encourage that knowledge to be widespread, and also tools like DocuMark, which then institutions can use to verify whether AI has been used, for example, in the generation of content, if there are rules that they have in place.
Right. Right. Excellent point. Now, moving on to the quick hits. The first one, Tony, again, we mentioned that you've been touring for attending conferences and meeting clients. And during that time, a lot of publishers have announced a lot of different things. All of these are in quick hits. So Clear Skies and Silverchair partner to integrate paper mill detection and journal integrity metrics into peer review workflows. So we are talking about paper mill alarm and oversight tools, which will help identify fraudulent submissions. And Silverchair obviously is a leader in such integrations, and it uses machine learning. This integration uses machine learning and content profiling, and it offers a color-coded risk indicator for quick editorial decisions.
Yeah.
And journal level oversight metrics will also track research integrity trends. I think these are great, sort of lessons. I mean, every publisher, every submission system should eventually look for such integrations to help the journal editors as well as the peer reviewers to help improve their own workflows in terms of improving the integrity aspects, right, Tony?
Well, this is a really, really good example of what somebody with a deep understanding of publishing, with academic publishing, can do to support the publishing process. Clear Skies, which, by the way, won yet another award. It keeps winning awards at various publishing events. They won an award last week at the SSP conference, which I attended, the Epic Award. I can't remember which category it was. I think innovation, probably. Is a really good example of that product that can help detect the use of paper mills. I used to work with the founder, Adam Day, years ago when I worked at IOP. Super bright guy, data scientist who clearly understands that process and what good and bad practice looks like. And so these tools are real. And we at Inago are working with those guys to offer these tools to our research institution customers.
Right. The category that Clear Skies' is oversight won was the excellence in integrity, and that they won the gold.
Right.
And Tony, it would be remiss to mention the fact that Charles Worth won.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and we won a silver award also.
Yeah, that's for the excellence in other tools and products, and this is for the gateway notification service for global messenger apps. And you were there to receive the award, right?
Unfortunately, we only had one ticket, so my colleague Mike Evans was at the award. He's the person actually who launched that product, so he should have been there.
Yeah.
So no, I missed it, but I heard all about it the following morning.
Right. Okay. The next thing is also another Silverchair announcement that I think 3 Silverchair announcements in this set. Silverchair expands integration opportunities with ScholarOne Relay API. This is something that I think even you and I would be sort of affected by, or positively affected by.
Positively, yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, the whole point about this is publishers want to be able to keep authors, researchers within a particular framework, within an environment. So when you're submitting a paper to a particular journal, you don't want to have to go to another website, leave that environment to be able to then run whatever checks the publisher might require. So what Silverchair are doing with the development of the Relay API for Scholar One, and Scholar One is you probably don't know this as a researcher. I'm talking to research, not to UKK, of course. Researchers don't realise that something like Manuscript Central, which is one of the most commonly used tools to upload manuscripts,
Right.
is a Scholar One tool, which is owned by Clarivate, and that the whole purpose about the Relay API is to be able to allow researchers to be able to run these checks while staying within that Scholar One environment, so they never have to leave. It's there. It feeds APIs back into the report, which goes with the paper, and they never have to leave that environment. And that's what publishers want.
Right. And just to clarify, the Scholar One has been purchased from Clarivate by Silverchair recently. So I think you mentioned it's under Clarivate. So I just wanted to clarify that.
That's correct. Yeah, it was acquired last year, I think.
Right. So this one, as Tony mentioned, it's a two-way sort of a relay integration into for vendors and other sort of third-party tools into the submission system, and it is focusing on research integrity as of now, but it also Silverchair promises it to also provide features related to peer review in the future. So we are all excited about this, and I think it'll affect positively a lot of these. Research integrity / peer review automation being integrated into Scholar One directly.
Yeah.
So good news for everyone.
Watch this space. It's an exciting area.
Right. And some more announcement. Kaga Publishers collaborates with Molecular Connections to decode rejected manuscripts using AI. This is interesting. In a nutshell, the manuscripts that have been rejected by a journal, which end up being published in other journals, are being analyzed. And the whole idea is to provide feedback to the editorial staff as well as the peer reviewers, how they could have prevented this rejection. And instead of it being published elsewhere, it could have been published in the same journal. Wonderful thing.
Well, yeah. I mean, okay. I understand why a publisher would want to do this. I mean, there are always good reasons to reject a paper. Understanding those reasons may help in terms of adapting editorial policies and scopes, journal scopes moving forward. Okay, and I'm sure there's always a case of FOMO, missing out if a paper is rejected. I mean, I know there was a famous case some years ago of, I can't remember which journal it was, that rejected a chemistry paper, which ended up being a part of a Nobel Prize winning award. So you obviously want to avoid that, but so anything that will help understand, why papers are rejected, what specifically, and you've got analytics that helps understand what those reasons are, and if it positively influences the development and the use of the journal, then good.
Three quick hits. The River Valley Technologies unveils an innovative research integrity dashboard. So another dashboard for research integrity. So it's called Review 3.0. It's a submission and peer review system, and the dashboard includes tools like ImageSpin and Clear Skies. So yet another thing, I think it was a finalist. This review was a finalist in SSP Epic Awards. I don't think it won. Did you hear a lot of its mentions? I mean, it's being mentioned.
I don't think I know River Valley quite well.
Oh wait, it did win Excellence in Submission System feature. River Valley Technologies Review 3.0. It won it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So I know River Valley's quite well. I've known them for some time. Kaveh Bazargan, the CEO, is a great guy.
Right. And Taylor and Francis Online highlights updates to cited research through new Get FTR powered indicator. So another sort of retraction related signaling coming directly into Taylor and Francis. So when research papers are retracted or updated, indicators will appear in the references section within the journal website and papers itself is what I'm understanding. This feature aims to keep readers informed and maintain research integrity, just what we talked about in terms of trickling down the information, which will help researchers to not cite retracted papers. Right, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, it should be part of every site, shouldn't it? I mean, you want to see how these indicators update, how these indicate changes in
right.
what you need to be citing. I think this is great.
Right. And the last quick hit. Aries Systems and DataSeer partner to advance research excellence and transparency in scientific publishing. The general theme behind it is that scholarly journals face challenges with editorial checks and compliance. So we are talking about Snapshot. It's a product by DataSeer. It offers checks like data sharing and generates quick reports. Now this integration with Aries ensures will ensure that things are brought to the attention of the human stakeholder as well, and it uses a secure large language model for efficient checking, and
Yeah,
the idea is to save time and improve efficiency, which is an excellent step. I mean,
yeah,
we have covered, I think, 6 different stories of how automation can potentially help
yeah.
manuscript submission systems for a publisher. I think,
That's right. And we
yeah,
just talked about Scholar One, for example.
yeah,
Editorial managers, the next big one. You
yeah,
know, those two, Scholar One and editorial manager, don't have the whole market, but they have a very large part of that market, and they want to make their site sticky. And I think making these sort of tools, these kinds of tools available, and lots more other tools will be available through these platforms, does exactly that. Just makes them sticky and keeps the authors within a single environment.
yeah.
And that's at the end of the day, you want to be able to manage that workflow as seamlessly as you can.
Yeah, excellent point. If you want to manage our listeners and audience, and I'll guide them to our previously published A73 episode catalog, how can you do that? How can you streamline that process, Tony?
Didn't I say that at the beginning of this episode? I think so. All you need to go is to our YouTube channel, search for Inaga PubShorts, and you'll find all 73 previous episodes there. And so please contact KK or I via LinkedIn, or me directly at tonio@naga.com. If you have suggestions for future topics, press share, like these videos, and we'd love to see more comments from you, the watcher.
Yeah, spoken like a true influencer. Thank you, Tony, for plugging of all our channels. And until the next episode, this is Dr. KK signing off on behalf of Tony, as well as whoever supports us in bringing this content. We will see you in the next episode very soon, Tony. Bye-bye. Have a very good rest of the day.
See you in the next one.